He was disruptive as a 3-tech, as a 1-tech. I think he'll be able to have a little bit of versatility for the Browns there. This is a really fun pick for them. He can get after the passer. He can attack running lanes. Michael Hall is one of my pet cats at defensive tackle in this draft.
A little bit undersized, though, right?
He is. He's small.
6'2", 229. I don't think necessarily.
229.
I have him at 280.
Sorry, 299.
I was going to say 229 is a massive
Hold on
problem.
a second. 299. 6'2", 299. I don't think there's a huge concern with size there. He looked the part at the Senior Bowl too.
Why did I feel like I had a 280 player there?
I have 280 down as well.
Was that from the maybe the combine numbers?
This would be draft profile. So
maybe he gained weight. But to me, this is a guy that wins with his quickness. He needs to get a little bit stronger. Great on slants. I did note, though, Ryan, I agree with you. Like, he feels like kind of a tweener to me.
6'3", 290.
290. Okay, there you go.
6'3", 290 at
290.
combine.
Okay, yeah.
He sets up speed to power, moves well. I think he just needs to add some more tools as a pass rusher. But, I mean, you look at his quickness up the field. The swim move with him, really, really impressive to be able to split the center and the guard to get upfield. Yeah, I mean, that's a rotation that they've got there.
He is a quick,
now.
twitched guy, though.
Yeah,
sure is.
The
really
dip,
twitchy.
the bend, those are the kinds of things. I think, when you talk about fighting across the blocker's face with the
plays
quickness
pissed
and the
off.
burn. Yeah, he does. That's something about him. I can see why you had him as kind of a
I
pet
can
cat
see why
guy.
you like him. Yeah, no doubt. All right, the Dolphins on the clock. Now, Miami went with Chop Robinson last night. Talk about explosiveness.
Who's the most
ball.
explosive player on the board, or who can really run? That's
Okay, let me see. I nailed this yesterday.
You sure did.
Jalen Wright, Corley,
that run after catch.
Peyton Wilson.
You want to fight or something?
That's
What about,
Steven.
do you think they'd go defensive tackle? What about Dorless here?
Steven's on the phone.
Jatavian Sanders if they want a tight end?
Well, they're about to tell you here, Wooly Bully.
Here's to Miami.
That's it. How y'all doing, Detroit?
All right, Richmond Webb, Texas A&M.
The Miami Dolphins, with the 55th pick, select Patrick Paul, tackle from the University of Houston.
Do what you need to do. Do what you got to do,
That ain't
boss.
bothering us one bit. All right, Patrick Paul goes to the Miami Dolphins here.
There you go.
That's a Houston player, and
Puts Dallas on the clock,
he's
right?
massive. Right, Cowboys are on the clock here.
Boxing back.
I don't really have much that needs to be said about Patrick
I'll give the
Paul.
players due.
Yeah, talk about it.
Well, I don't have a ton of great things to say. He wasn't my flavor of offensive tackle, but he does have extremely long arms. He's a big guy. Maybe if you coach him up a little bit, I can see some traits like why people might like him.
Didn't allow a sack.
Yeah, the striking from him, you're just looking for better hand placement.
Just
with
sloppy.
the
That
striking.
is
Just a little sloppiness.
And
Yes.
again, he has a boxing background.
It's weird.
That's what drives me bonkers is the fact that he has, but I think a lot of it has to do with the footwork and him not being on balance when he's striking. But
There you go.
I'm just hoping that somebody can hone in on some of the boxing skills he does and try to help that translate to some of the things that he does as an offensive lineman. But when he plays with decisiveness and he places his hands well and he latches, he can be very aggressive and can move some folks out the way. But
Okay.
we're not huge.
We got the Cowboys on the clock. The War Room cam is up. We got Steven, who just got off the phone. Now, if you want a running back, my number one back, Trey Benson's on the
He's
board.
still there.
I think Benson could be in play here for them.
The
Potentially.
fact that
You think they're trying to trade back?
Steven on the phone is.
Well, the fact that Will McClay is over on the right side there, and if they're going to get a player, they're going to get the player on the phone. He's going to be the guy that do it. And the fact that Will's sitting there and not doing anything.
I kind of like the trade back option here.
Yeah.
I think you got a lot of good options right now. Benson's still there. Colson's still there. Wallace is still there. You've got all of your interior linemen that we liked with Cooper Beebe, Christian Haynes, Mahogany, Davis from Illinois still there.
Mitch LaPointe is very animated in there in the last few minutes.
Who do you think LaPointe could be fighting for, Bobby?
He's a national scout.
Yeah,
though, right?
he's one of
So
the.
he could
he's
be
one
fighting
of the big
for
wigs.
anybody.
He may be fighting for a player though over a trade as well.
Okay.
We may be looking at.
I mean, do you worry? Like, who's the guy that you think if you were to move here, you might miss him? Is it Benson? I think Benson might be the top guy.
I don't know. Let's see what's Will doing.
Benson's my highest rated player outside of Peyton Wilson and Javon Bullard.
Benson would be my guy. Benson, Corley, Beebe would be the three for me right now.
I got Benson and Beebe touching. I don't think Corley's in play here. Do you?
But I was just giving my names.
Yeah, I love.
Okay, if you did
McMillan.
it, yeah, Benson. How about this? Benson, Beebe, and then maybe Hicks. If you were looking at the safety guy,
I love Hicks.
I love Jaden Hicks too. I mean,
maybe
Bullard would be my guy over Hicks, but I think both of them are fantastic.
and Isaac.
There's a lot of smiles in the room.
The edge.
You think we're going down?
No. Well, is Will getting the phone?
If Will's on the phone,
Will's got his hand on the phone. He's not moving it
Will
yet.
does have his hand on the phone.
maybe they're waiting to see if somebody else was going to call, and then he'll fire it if they.
Will's picking up the phone.
I think you pulled the trigger on the running
Steven
back
just
here.
said, I think I just saw Steven Mouth pick up the phone.
Yeah, make the pick.
Okay.
All right. Then yeah, what are we looking at here? One of these backs.
I would
Benson?
take Benson.
Lot of smiles
Benson's my
here.
top back, man. I love Trey Benson.
I mean, he's.
I mean, you could wait on it. I mean, I don't think you've got to go running back here. I think that right now it's looking pretty good. But if you want to take the top player, I mean, I've got him as my 32nd best player, and it's
All
pick
those,
56.
and you got a bunch of linebackers sitting there too.
sure do.
You mean,
and I think the third round's the sweet spot for
and
linebacker.
Maybe Wilson off the board. We're not going to talk about him. Colson on that board.
Sure.
Well, Wallace on that board. Maybe a little rich for him there. If you think that, but linebacker, interior offensive lineman.
Yeah, they've picked somebody. Will just passed the phone over to Jerry. Jerry's on the phone, so we're going to have a Cowboys pick here. It's just a question of who could it be. I think my vote would be Trey Benson. What's the rest of the room think?
I think it could be. I think it's going to be kind of a wild card here. I think there's a really good value in the third round for running backs. I feel like this organization believes that too. I think this is going to be kind of a wild card. Whether this
Boy,
is
they
take-
are hot. Steven is hyped.
You're
Whoever they
taking
just took.
I'm
Corley.
gonna go Colson.
You think,
Do you think it's like a corner, like an outside the box position, like a Rakestraw?
I wonder if it- if
or a
it-
Tampa.
yeah.
Nah, I don't see that.
They're happy.
Well, you're always happy.
They
when
got
you
their
pick.
guy here. I wouldn't. I mean, if
If it's, I wouldn't wait on Corley.
I would take
I think he
Jalen.
does.
Do we
McMillan
see
here if
position
you're taking
coaches
a wide
anywhere?
receiver.
Position coaches.
They're
anywhere?
hiding those
I don't
dudes
see
out,
any
man.
position coaches. Pick is in. We're high fiving. We are shaking hands. We're kissing babies here.
They was doing that yesterday.
I'm excited to see who this is. I think it could be a variety of players. My vote though would be Benson. What do you guys know?
I think that this
got a
is
hunch, huh?
This
Did you get tipped off? You got tipped off.
this is somebody I think that we mentioned yesterday who could potentially sneak into the back end of the first and did not.
Well, I mentioned TJ Tampa. We mentioned who else have we talked about?
Hicks.
Here? Oh,
The
I
safety.
love Hicks.
Jaden Hicks. I love Jaden Hicks.
They're gonna take a safety right now.
I'll tell you what, but he was
I'd
the
be
guy we
sick.
talked about. I mean, if you're
Mike Zimmer on the phone.
Okay,
It's
so it's a
defense.
defensive player.
it is a defensive.
Top
Okay.
defensive players heading into today.
Rakestraw, Tampa.
Colson.
Junior Colson, Marshawn Nealon, Jaden Hicks. These are some of the guys we might be looking at here.
Marshawn Nealon is a guy.
I'll tell you what, Brian.
told you I wouldn't do that.
You know Zim better than most. and
Interchangeable. If it's the safeties, interchangeable, smart, tough. Those are the types of things. Glad the pick's in. I don't
Here's
have
the
to
pick
guess
in.
anymore.
I think this is going to be a corner. It's a question of which corner is it. Yeah. If it's a safety, I'd be thrilled.
Good evening, Detroit. I'd like to introduce a few people who are up here on stage with me. In our family's household, our number one Cowboy fan, my son, Chase. I've had the honor and the privilege for serving for and working for two of America's teams. One, serving for the United States Air Force. And two, the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, boy. Glad he led with Service Academy.
You're not supposed to boo a veteran, guys. Just kidding. But I'd also like to introduce a couple other veterans that are joining me on stage.
Let's see.
Earlier today, the NFL, alongside the Bob Woodruff Foundation and Move United, hosted the first ever USA Wheelchair Football League Veterans All-Star Game. These All-Stars are part of the National USA Wheelchair Football League, funded by an NFL Salute to Service grant. Please join me in welcoming the co-captains of the game today, retired U.S. Army Corporal Jason Rainey.
Defensive line coach Greg Ellis was on the phone.
Ooh, this is a defensive lineman.
And retired U.S. Marine Sergeant Alex Wynn.
Could it be edge, you think? You think it's Nealand? Or Dorless?
To make the pick today,
Nealand's
for the
probably
Dallas
the best
Cowboys,
edge left.
I'm going to turn the mic over to
BPA
Jason,
scenario.
who led his team today as the quarterback to win the league championship this last year. Jason, take it away, sir.
Thank you. With the 56th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Marshawn Nealand, defensive end from Western Michigan.
Okay. Marshawn Nealand, probably the best edge when it comes to pass rushing ability left. Now, Austin Booker from Kansas was a guy that I preferred a little bit over Nealand. But to get him here, if you wanted to get an edge player, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, this dude ran track in high school. He was an all-conference high jumper. He's a freak athlete. I mean, he's got quickness off the ball. I didn't think he was as highly touted when it came to like first round as some others did. To get him here at 56, I think you're right, Nick. I think this is a best player available on a position where you need more depth here. You just lost Fowler. You just lost Armstrong. Insert Marshawn Nealand, who I do think needs to get a little bit stronger. I think there's sometimes he can rush himself out of running lanes, which can be a problem for this team already. But goodness gracious, he does have some exciting film.
Yeah, this is a surprise. I don't think I could have pinned Marshawn Nealand to the Dallas Cowboys in this draft. But you look at him at 267 pounds. He's more of a bigger edge. He was able to show that power at the Senior Bowl. I liked what I saw from him in Mobile. He wasn't the best edge, in my opinion, that was on display there. But you can see what he could do as far as pass rush moves. The one thing that I come away with is his production, though, in pass rush. He never had more than 4.5 sacks in a season up there in Kalamazoo. But I think his potential in the run game is really exciting, and I think him being able to learn under DeMarcus Lawrence could make that a really fun kind of a teacher-mentor relationship. But being able to bring him in at 56 with a trade back opportunity potentially on the table there, as Stephen Jones was talking on the phone, I'm curious as to the complete thought process around this pick. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of it at the end of the day.
Nealand was one of the ones that when I was asking who's somebody who could sneak into the back of the first round, Nealand was one that I had been told by people could get in there. And if you talk about they lost 4 defensive linemen, there's been a run on defensive tackles. You're talking about a guy who has really good length, is somebody who is a really effective bull rusher, somebody who's still learning the position. This is a converted tight end. And so this is upside, and this is a guy who, like I said, there were a lot of teams that really liked him as a player, and I think pretty easily, looking at coming into today, I think most teams looked at him as the top pure edge rusher that was left.
It makes you wonder how hard they thought about Darius Robinson last night.
Yeah.
And wanting to come away with an edge in these first 2 days.
Well, because I don't think, to your point, I don't think it's just because of the fact that he's an edge. I think it's also, too, because you've seen him be able to do some things on the interior.
You can kick him inside.
Well.
Sure.
Yes, I mean, he's 275. And then, Bobby, you bring up the length. You know, maybe even when he gets a little bit more size, you're talking about him not being super far away size-wise from some of these tweener DTs that you've seen go pretty heavy as well.
He'll stand up. He'll put his hand on the ground. Like, they use him in it. Like, there's versatility again with him.
You can move him around to get favorable matchups. Well, I want to get Brian's thoughts on this. We're going to step aside real quick. We'll come back. We'll recap the Cowboys pick. Bucks on the clock. We'll also get Marshawn Nealand's secret audio and get to talk with the newest Dallas Cowboy that they just took at pick 56. You're listening to the 2024 NFL Draft on 105.3 The Fan and DallasCowboys.com. All right, Brian, how are we feeling?
I don't see a particularly bendy guy here, as far as the edges. I think he's a much better run player than he is a pass rusher. You'll see him playing the 2-point stance, 3-point stance, 4-point stance. I don't see, he's got a lot of flexibility, and I think there's some limit to how much he can really rush the passer. Where he is very successful is with there's some upper body power, there's some pop to his game. The hands, he could rock blockers back, stop them in their track. I think he's explosive, high energy as a rusher and a player. The leverage part, I think, is really good. I think the natural strength to stack the blockers. I just don't think he's the most bendy guy when it comes to attacking the corner. I think there's some stiffness to his game. And so I feel like you're kind of getting a better run defender right now than you're getting a true edge pass rusher.
Well, I mean, we talked about it. It's a lot of this or that with some of these guys.
Yeah.
And you kind of, to me, you kind of forfeit some of it with the size, because if we would have, like, who did you say you thought was a little
Austin
higher?
Booker.
Austin
And that's because of the bendiness. I thought Booker could bend more.
Someone could feel that way about Isaac as well.
Yeah,
It's like,
Penn
but
State,
are these guys stopping to run at a high clip?
No, this guy,
So it's
that's
give
what
and take to me.
This is what he can do.
So, I mean, I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, but I did worry a little bit. I think at times he gets himself out of running lanes. He leaves some gaps open, which we've seen be a problem at times for the Cowboys' defensive line.
Yeah, and that's something that I said, that he can get caught as a rusher going down the middle of people sometimes as well. He just continues to fight, and I think that's what's helpful for him. But as far as, like, I think he has a decent feel. Like, I see what Nick is mentioning about him being able to grow as a run defender, and I think it is very important. It is extremely underrated. It's hurt you for multiple years now that you do not have an edge opposite of Micah or Tank, and sometimes not even
But
Micah.
this is where I thought Golston was going to be this guy.
And I
this
get
is
that.
this is where when I watched
coaches,
Iowa,
Brian.
yeah, when I watched Iowa tape, I thought this is what Golston was going to be.
I see that, but I mean, Chauncey Golston has gone through putting on size, taking off size. It's one thing about Neyland, though, I will say really quickly, that initial contact,
Sure.
you see guys' heads pop back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
He's strong there,
Yeah.
so we'll see.
Cowboys just selecting Marshawn Neyland, the defensive end out of Western Michigan.
Chris Braswell just went to the Buccaneers.
Well, and Braswell's a guy that I will be honest, I had graded a little bit higher. But, you know, he may be a little bit more complete. But you talk about upside, I can see what teams and what the Cowboys would like.
This is a trend that I just feel like this team in particular, they like some of these raw players. Like, they really like being able to mold some of these players, which, and again, you mentioned, Brian, you just mentioned this is what I thought Chauncey Golston would be, is that edge defender that can contain, shed, and tackle. Well, there's a new coaching staff in here.
Sure.
And that stuff comes into play as well. So I'm not surprised, because I feel like I've been mentioning him since, like, last week. Like, it's just something about him that I thought fit what the Cowboys are looking for. But I know a lot of people don't feel too great about it, but I think it's fine.
Well, we're about
He's
to
where
get,
I thought he would be.
We're about to get Marshawn Neyland on the phone to be able to catch up with the newest Dallas Cowboys. Zach Wolchuk alongside Bobby Belt, Nick Harris. We've got Brian Broaddus, Aisha Morrison here as we are in the second round of the NFL draft. Cowboys just taking Marshawn Neyland at pick 56. Picks are flying off the board here. 57, Chris Braswell going to the Buccaneers out of Alabama, and the Green Bay Packers on the clock now at pick 58. We'll see who they end up selecting.
This is going to be a safety, I believe. This would be my safety.
Best safety left to me is Bullard. That's my guy.
Packers select Javon Bullard,
There you go.
defensive back, Georgia.
That's a hell of a pick for the Green Bay Packers. That dude is going to be a Pro Bowler. I love me some Javon Bullard. They lost Darnell Savage in free agency, so Bullard is a pretty good replacement there. You talk about coverage ability. Oh, my goodness gracious. I think this guy is absolutely fantastic. He can go ahead and play the slot. I've talked about him a lot. He saw action as a freshman at Georgia, named defensive MVP of the national title game against TCU, also the semifinal against Ohio State. He's a dude. He'll thump you. I mean, he's the leader of that back end. I love Javon Bullard. I think that's a great pick for the Packers within the NFC. That's kind of stinks to see him going to Green Bay.
Did you guys see him as just a safety?
I think he's better as a safety. I want him in space, just because I think he can cover so much space. I think you can give him half the field, and he'll be able to man that down. His speed, his range, his zone abilities, and also him being able to step as a run defender. You saw that as well, and that especially in that game against TCU early on. I mean, they weren't able to get anything going offensively because they were trying to rely on the run early on. But I think Javon Bullard has a lot that he can do from sideline, from the hash to the sideline as well. Being able to account for guys coming over the top of the defense. I like this pick for Green Bay. This is a perfect pick for them.
Yeah, I love it.
I would have gone with Hicks myself, but man, I tell you what, they knew they needed a safety. They were trying to get Cooper DeJean. It didn't work out. They got Philly traded ahead of them. Here's the Texans selection.
Texans on the board. This is their second
Fisher, tackle, Notre Dame.
Blake Fisher.
Ooh, that's a good pick.
And this was my highest rated tackle.
Texans continuing to build along that offensive line. Blake Fisher, I think, was quietly one of the better tackles remaining. How about
right tackle only kind of
He
guy,
is a right tackle
yeah.
only, played opposite of Joe Alt there at Notre Dame. But Blake Fisher, pretty darn good player. Rosengarten still available. Kingsley Suamataia still available as well as we continue to wait on getting Marshawn Nealand, your newest Dallas Cowboy defensive end out of Western Michigan, on the phone here to catch up. But Blake Fisher, Brian, I mean, started 12 games last year at right tackle. Good player.
Yeah, he is a good player. And, and that, but the thing about him was interesting in the tape. Felt like he was like a tick slow off the ball at times. And so you kind of wondered, like, okay, is there something going on there? Can he not see inside the vision and all that? But, man, he tends to play kind of light for a guy his size. He's 6'6", he's 310, he's long, he's rangy. I think he could use some more bulk even at 310. But he doesn't come firing off the ball and strike his opponent like you'd like to always see. He's kind of a fit and wall off or steer with his hands. When his hands gets inside, he's got a chance of sealing defenders off more than driving them. Mm-hmm. The feet, I think, could be a little bit of a tick quicker of him getting off the ball.
Yeah, I had slow feet as well. He can struggle sometimes versus speed to power, but he's really good in the run game, and he gets to the second level. I think he has a good feel as well for those combo blocks, which we've discussed. Strong anchor. I like that pick for Houston to put him at right tackle for Blake Fisher.
Yeah, he is slow off the snap. My biggest issue with, in fact, he was so slow off the snap, Brian. After we say, how slow was he?
How slow was he, Bobby?
He was so slow off the snap. Don Brown recruited him to Michigan to play defensive tackle. No, here's the thing: is that when you watch him here, to me, the thing that's lacking is instincts and a feel for the game is my biggest concern with him. It's not just the snap anticipation; it's sometimes finding the area to strike when he's out front blocking in the run. It's poor anticipation of where guys are going to strike him with their hands, and to me, he lets guys get into his chest. There's a lot of things about Blake Fisher that are concerning to me in terms of outside of just technique, just what seems like very natural, instinctual parts of his game.
Yeah, and now we got Buffalo back on the clock. Buffalo took one of the wide receivers earlier in the draft, which they had to go and get. So we'll see what happens with Buffalo here. Looking at some of the needs that they still have to address. Of course, corner would be one. They got Keon Coleman from Florida State. A safety. Maybe they take Jaden Hicks. That'd actually be a really good pick for them because they lost both of their guys.
No, it wouldn't.
Oh, because you want him to keep falling?
Yeah. No, they don't need to.
All right. But let's go ahead and welcome in right now your Dallas Cowboys second-round pick, Marshawn Nealand. Marshawn, how are you, sir? Happy draft day, man. What was it like getting the call from Jerry?
Man, it's crazy, man. It's a great experience, man. It's just exciting.
So as we've been studying your tape, man. You've got a lot of fun attributes to your game. I think some of the speed. Oh, you are also a converted offense player. I think you played tight end in high school, but you're a freak athlete. Mm-hmm. What can you tell us about some of your background and your athletic ability?
Like you said, I played tight end. I also played wide receiver. I did track. I did basically everything in track as far as running. I've always been athletic. I was a little bit smaller growing up, so that I had that athleticism, and I continued to build on that as I got bigger, which I kept a lot of it.
Did you have a feeling that the Cowboys were pretty interested in you during this process?
Decently so. I had a lot of visits, and yeah. So they definitely gave a good amount of interest.
Did Coach Zimmer, the defensive coordinator, get to chat with you there? What did Zim have to say?
Basically talking with him, it was just just saying, obviously he liked me. But the draft is crazy. It's always play out different. So it's just a great experience to be able to even be here.
Hey, Marshawn, I don't know how much you know about DeMarcus Lawrence, but I think that's probably a healthy comparison whenever you look at what you can bring to the next level. How excited are you to work with him and then Michael Parsons as well?
Definitely great. Very excited just to be able to come there and, obviously learn and just grow and, help out and be an impact player as fast as possible.
Yeah, and coming from a small program like Western Michigan and being a second-round pick, why do you feel like you should be valued just as much as these Power 5 guys coming into the next level as well?
Because, I put in the work, put in the time. I think, obviously, depending on the school you go to, I don't think it matters that much. I got invited to the Senior Bowl, Combine, and I'm pretty sure I did decently well there to even put me in this position. So I think it's, I deserve the same respect as anybody else.
Marshawn, how big was, and congratulations first of all on getting selected, but how big, when you talk about having that chip on your shoulder and coming from a group of 5, how big was Senior Bowl week, do you think, for you to be able to showcase to teams like, I belong here on the same field with these Power 5 guys?
It was definitely a great trip. Just being able to go out there and basically show what I can do, and I'm not just doing it against a group of 5 players, but Power 5 as well. It was just great. Obviously, carrying that chip on my shoulder wherever I go, because I've always been the underdog, no matter where I was at, just being under-recruited out of high school and obviously college, and now here.
Marshawn, Nick mentioned that you have the comparison to a Tank Lawrence here in Dallas. You seem to have a pretty good feel for the run game. Is that something that you take pride in, being a run stopper, despite the fact that, you are considered an edge and a lot of these guys are, rushing the passer?
Mm-hmm. I definitely take great pride in that because obviously you got to get to the pass downs by stopping the run most of the time. I like violence. I like physicality. So I'm always going to come off the hit. So, obviously working with that, you take violence and physicality, that's going to stop the run regardless, and you can translate that to pass easily.
Yeah, how did you develop that snap you got in your hands? Like you hit guys with those 2 hands, and those guys stop in their tracks. Natural strength, a guy, big weight room guy. You're impressive with the way you're able to use your hands to play that way.
Definitely a big weight room guy, but I feel like I've always had that strength. Even when I was a little bit skinnier playing defensive line, I was probably 160, 170 playing in high school, and still being physical, hitting guys, and obviously a little bit more faster there. But I think obviously growing, being in the weight room, getting bigger, just made it more stable where I'm hitting guys all the time and just going around basically.
Last one for you, Marshawn. I know you're a former track guy. Micah Parsons, he ran a 4.3940. You think you could beat him in a race?
Yeah, I don't know about that one. Hey, I will take that up on the 400. I say I'll get him in there.
Okay, give him the distance. Yeah, okay, I see your strategy.
Don't let him hear that, man. Don't let him hear that.
What a badass high jumper as well, man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Marshawn Nealon with us here, and it's been great talking with you. One last thing I wanted to ask you about is they did a great job at Western Michigan kind of standing you up and getting some different mismatches. Where do you think you are the most comfortable along the defensive line?
I feel like just being able to play everywhere, I feel like I'm comfortable. Obviously, like I said, I was skinnier and not smaller, but skinnier when I was growing up, so I played safety. So I've had the experience from standing up and being able to move around like that. Obviously, in high school, most of the time I played D-line. So, most of my career has been pretty good balance of standing up and getting down. So I feel comfortable over it all.
All right, last one, just a fun one before we let you go, just to learn a little bit about you. What's the pregame meal?
Dude, the pregame meal. Obviously, fruits, veggies, all that, the salad. Obviously, got to have the protein and meat, the carbs, pasta, and yeah.
There we go.
A lot of guys don't eat.
I know some guys. You get too nervous.
A lot of guys don't eat. I'm surprised that you eat. You're like, nah, I ain't missing no meals.
Ready. Marshawn, this has been awesome, man. We can't wait to get to meet you here. Welcome to Dallas whenever you land, and congratulations on being a Dallas Cowboy, man.
Good, thank you.
There he goes, Marshawn Nealon, pick 56 overall in the second round for your Dallas Cowboys. Sounds like a great dude, and I think that's fun. That's a fun question about Micah, because now you got 2 freak athletes here with Nealon and Micah Parsons. Maybe we can have some fun out there in Oxnard.
The giggling at himself is funny to me.
Oh yeah,
he laughing at himself. He just that's a good vibe. I one thing that I did see when I was doing any type of research about him is that he is very coachable, very teachable, and when you bring up like, okay, he's going to be in a room with a guy